Welcome back, sports fans. If you're new to the show, this is Moving the Needle podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Crazy stat: most of you guys that are consuming a lot of the content are not subscribed on YouTube. So if you could do me that favor, we can get epic guests. Like I've got a guy coming up. I can't believe he's been racing this long because I just have these memories of him smoking my ass and everyone else at Schladming on those flat pedals. And he's had an illustrious career. Now he's doing his own thing, two kids, which I don't even know how he's handling training and racing. But Blenky, it's a long time overdue to have a yarn, as you boys say in New Zealand. What's cracking with you at the moment?
No, yeah, thanks for having me. Well, it's been a pretty busy month. Probably one of the busiest in a long time, just because we've actually just moved back to my hometown. So that's Wanganui in the North Island. So we've kind of had it in the works for a while, but I've just been dragging it on a little bit because I was like, oh, we'll just stay in Christchurch, which is in the South Island, for like a few more years, just why I was trying to like keep racing because obviously there's not the reason I moved to Christchurch in the first place. There isn't much downhill here in Wanganui, so I went down there. The reason because of downhill and everything like that. So we've been in Christchurch for 12 years, and then obviously now we've got children, and my daughter started school, which was about a month ago here in Wanganui. So that was the whole reason we had to be here in that time. So we were kind of rushing, and yeah, it's been a big job moving for sure. But we're stoked we're here, and it's kind of my dream house that I've always wanted. Like not the house, but the property. Got a few trails here, and yeah, there's two little paddocks. The kids have been ripping around on motorbikes, and it's like when I was a kid, that was my dream to have anywhere I could just dig or do anything. So I've got my dream, but if the kids are into it, hopefully they are into biking or whatever, then they've got the place for it for sure.
Hey, at least you've got your dream. If the kids don't gravitate to using the yard, I know you will, because what strikes me with you is you haven't outgrown like the fun factor riding your bike all day, which I definitely got burnt out. But
Mm.
whenever I see you on track, and still, if you're doing it at this age, and I see you do all the national rounds, like you just have not fallen out of love with it, it seems.
Yeah, for sure. Like obviously, I did national champs in the weekend, and it was funny because I think I was talking to like even the older guys like Lewis Hamilton and like that. I was like, man, Lewis, I remember my first national champs was here, 2002 or 2003, and I remember him. He was on the side of the track like a little young kid, still had his English accent, and I'm still racing him now, and he's obviously an older guy. And then all the other kids are like born in 2006, and I was like, man, that was my first world championships, like or second world champion. I was second year junior in Rotorua here, and I'm racing all these kids in my category, and still like, well, should have bet them, but I crashed in my race run. I haven't like had a big like crash in that in a long time, so I felt like I was riding good, and I felt like in seeding I was third, and I kind of made a big mistake, so I lost a lot of speed in the top. But I feel like I would have been like either third or second, or could have won it. I don't know. You never know. You can say could have, would have, should have. But yeah, I feel like I was riding good. I was like riding with Tahoto, and felt like I was on his pace, and he won it. So it's like pretty cool to still be. I guess people think I'm old, but I still feel like I'm young, like these other kids, and I don't feel any different. I still love riding my bike, and I still really enjoy it. Like I still have hunger to like race and do well. So it's kind of weird. Like I do sometimes I'm like, why am I doing it? Like I don't really need to anymore. But I also enjoy just going and hanging out and riding with my mates really. So it's pretty cool.
How old are you actually now, anyway? Like, what is your age? Because you don't seem old. You're not racing. Like, your pace hasn't slowed down to the point that I'm like, oh, he's aging.
Yeah. Well, my World Cup stuff is pretty average, but that's just all because of I don't know, just struggle with like not being a factory team or whatever, But that doesn't make anything. But I'm 36, I think, 88. So yeah, 36 or 37.
Yeah, but I feel
Yeah,
like the World Cup stuff, that everything really needs to be clicking, like I feel like your pace is there at national rounds, right? And I don't think the
Mm,
pace is like that crazy, but you've got to do all this preparation and, like you say, the factory thing. And maybe that is a grind for you now, like to have that, like, that extra 2% that you need to like be back in maybe your expectations, like, because the sport has sort of leveled up every year, right? And you've been doing it, well, if you're 36, I guess almost 20 years if you like include the junior world champs and stuff.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Well, 20 years professional. So I
Yeah,
think,
really. Oh yeah, because you were on a
yeah,
factory team or like a team but still a junior, right, when you went to Europe?
yeah. Like the first year I went overseas, I was, mum and dad pretty much helped me to get over there. It was because of Rotorua was world champs the next year. So Bike and Z put in, like, okay, we're going to help New Zealand as much as you can. And we went to Livigno, and that was the only I did world champs there. And I did like a top 10, I think it was like eighth or something. And I was like the fastest junior that was carrying on for the next year behind Brendan, I think, Bekoff.
Yes. Yeah, yeah,
So
makes
then,
sense.
so then it like kind of opened up a few like teams that were looking for a junior for the next year, and then obviously I rode for Gravity Group, Turner, and that was like Peter at the time. And if I didn't have that, I don't think I would have ever gone over because my mum and dad couldn't come overseas, didn't have time. Dad was working, and I couldn't have travelled by myself because I was only 16, 17 at the time, and I had no idea. I don't even have my driver's license. I don't think at that time. I was just like a kid that liked riding bikes, and that was all I thought about. And then the I think that national series, I was pretty lucky. Like I opened up more eyes for people because Fabian Brell was world champion, and he came to New Zealand to our nationals, and I was a junior still, and I raced in the elite class, and I beat him on flat pedals on like a real pedally track in Hawke's Bay, and everyone was like, "Fuck, this world champ Fabian Brell has just come. He's supposed to be like a fit rider and everything, and this kid on flat pedals just smoked him on like a pretty like it wasn't like a gnarly track, but it was quite like had technical stuff, and then it was like quite flat at the bottom, so it was pretty funny to beat him. And then because I think that year everyone was coming over to our nationals because we had a test event before our before World Championships just to make sure the track was all good in Rotorua. And then I think at nationals still I still did pretty well. I was like I think like fifth or third behind like quite a few like top riders and juniors. So it was kind of that. It was good for me like coming into like that. I guess I was yeah. It was different for us back then because we raced elite at we didn't have junior class. We just were like
Same,
okay
yeah.
we'll just jump in. Well, there was junior class at nationals, but we were just like, well, we're going to World Cup, so we'll just race the elite guys, so it helps us go faster. And then I think that season I won like the elite class in junior, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I have a controversial view. Like I don't actually support the Junior World Cup class, and it's not
Mm,
like I don't want people to have opportunities and all these things. I just think that it is an elite sport and you should be focusing on that, like with schedule and all these things. So maybe at a round or two you should have a junior class, but if you're gonna make it, you probably often are showing the speed like you've just mentioned. Like, can you qualify
mm,
at an elite World Cup? You should be at least getting to that point, because
yeah,
it just seems we're using a lot of resources and money on, look, obviously your Jacksons, your Jordans, like you can see their times, like, but they would probably get support like you did, and that's great. And then the rest is like, well, maybe you need to cut your teeth at your national series and like, can you beat those elites? Maybe you need to go to
yeah,
IXSs. It's controversial, but I just think when I hear your story, it's like, well, that gave you the confidence, like, okay, I should go overseas. I might leave school. Like some people are maybe leaving school and the potential's not there. I just worry about that. But maybe that's the father in me now, like I just think it gives you a good dose of reality if you're a junior, but you're trying to race in an elite category. You like
yeah,
how do you see that?
yeah. I think that is the thing because that's why we did it. And then also in the weekend for our national champs, the juniors did like start with us. So all the qualifying like whoever qualified in the juniors and the elite, we all started together. So it was like
It was
it was
seeded.
like they
It
were
was seeded
racing.
like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So it was like they were racing us anywhere. But then,
Yeah, we did that at
so
home
then
one year.
they
It
had
was
this.
good.
Yeah, so it's the same sort of feeling for them racing. So they don't have like, so you don't have that. Oh, they raced an hour earlier. You know, they had better conditions or anything. They were all the juniors raced at the same time, and they pretty much, yeah, most of them whipped us anyway. So it was pretty crazy. But then I think Tohoto and Lockie was still the fastest. But then, yeah, the next guys, there's a lot of them coming through that are really quick. So it's good. And that's why their main thoughts already is like the overall, not really, they want to win the juniors, but then the overall is already there because they know, like, obviously Lockie and is like a World Cup almost winner, well, should have been. And then that's the pace they need to be running at. And then if they're doing that, then they can obviously be winning a Junior World Cup or near, because that's the pace like the juniors are these days. You know, obviously the speed they're going and here something's loose. They're not really thinking yet, so they just send it. But they just need that other part to kind of. That's why nationals are good because it helps them like work on that racecraft. Because obviously I have 20 plus years more of that, and then they're just coming into it, so that it's like, yeah, that's the big thing for them because they're working on that, and then yeah, that's what they need to work on because obviously us older guys have that already, and you see them because they're like, even the juniors, they're like watching us, they're like, oh, they're warming up, okay, oh, these guys are, what, oh, good, I'll do it too, you know, and then they're taking it a bit more serious maybe, or and they're kind of laughing as well, but we're like, and then they're saying, oh, geez, they're doing, okay, we'll do it, they're doing it, okay, and then they don't, because if they were just all starting together as the juniors, they'll just probably just fluff around and not take it maybe as serious. But then they see that, oh, yeah, so the elite guys are doing this, so we're doing it too. So it helps them as well at the end of the day, for sure.
Yeah, you're doing a lot for the sport back there, doing as many national rounds and obviously national champs is like something you would do. But I did a few, but probably, it's sometimes depending on the timing and how much you want to risk it. But I know,
Mm.
like, if Greg showed up at a race and I was young, like, that was cool because you are a sponge, right? So that's really cool that you go do so many races, and sometimes you don't get the results like people expect of you because I don't know, you're in a training block or you're just like not as focused. But you're doing a lot for the sport for sure. But mate, for someone that kind of has let the writing do the speaking, we've done a few podcasts lately, and I've really enjoyed hearing some of the stories and stuff. But I mean, I knew some of this, and I did some stupid shit going overseas, because you just haven't left your country, right? But you have some hilarious stories going overseas because you mentioned going over as a junior. So number one, you're a junior. Number two, you're from New Zealand, so it's quite withdrawn from like the real world, it seems, right?
Mm.
Like you didn't even pack long pants, like because your winter's
Yeah,
mild. Like what's like some of the funniest things looking back where you're like, yeah, I was just nowhere.
yeah, that's exactly what you're saying. Like I literally, because our winters here in New Zealand are pretty mellow. Like the coldest it gets is like, well, in the North Island here is like 10 degrees, maybe a little bit colder. So and then I didn't really have any pants or anything, so that's like the funniest thing. Like I go to Europe in March, so it's pretty cold then. It's still like snow, and I land into Innsbruck, which is where the team was from, and the manager picks me up, and he's like, I think I might have had shoes on, maybe I had jandals, but he's like, man, what's this kid up to? Because I've come from summer, and then I'm thinking, because I didn't really have an idea. I was pretty stupid. I like didn't know any. I was like, oh yeah, I didn't know I'm going to winter. I thought it would be like the same as New Zealand maybe, but yeah, I just had like summer clothes. I think I had a hoodie and just turned up, and it's like freezing cold, snow on the mountains, and just some shorts and a t-shirt really, and just the guy's like, what? So he took me to the shop to like get me some jeans and stuff, but he still cracked up because I don't think I ever wore them because I never was into wearing pants then because you couldn't really like go riding. I'd just always be street riding, and at the time we just had four cross bikes, so that was our trail bike really. So I'd just go. He'd be like, he'd kind of crack up because all I did as a kid, like when I was a junior, I'd just ride. I guess it's like all of us back then. I just ride all day. So if I had a jump bike, I'd ride that all day. So me and Win would just ride all day. Or if we had our downhill bikes, we'd just ride those all day. So we'd literally go to the skate park, ride our downhill bikes at the skate park, and then go to the dirt jumps in them. And there's not much downhill around here in Whanganui, so we'd just literally go and build like a 10 or 30, 20-second track and just ride that all day on our downhill bikes. And that's basically what I did for training. And then same when the best thing for me, I was so stoked when I like got to Europe, and then I was just building up like a 4-cross bike, and that was like the sickest thing ever to have, like as a young junior, to be able to ride around. And like obviously we didn't have trail bikes back then, so literally just put the seat up, and I'd just go ride up to the top of the mountain to where it was snow, and then just rip down all the walking tracks, because in Innsbruck they didn't really have any mountain bike trails back then. So I was just like riding walking trails, and people just screaming at me because I was just like a Kiwi little shithead, just with flat pedals, just loved going riding, and that's all I did. And just like, because that's all I did at home, we just rip walking tracks or whatever we could find. But like,
Yeah.
European Euros are just like the next level, just a bit aggro. They don't know, like you're supposed to like stick to the rules a little bit more in Europe. And yeah, I was just more into just riding my bike as much as I could, and yeah, I'd just go street riding, and yeah, just be a kid and have fun, really.
Yeah, we have like similar paths. I didn't get to win a World Cup like by you, but I had the Aussies around me, and I also had my parents taking me to nationals, and I also went overseas like young and dumb, you know. And luckily, I had Sven and Anke, who'd been there for so many years, and like Anke could sort of take me in and help me with my diet or like how to work a washing machine. But I, when I wasn't with them, I was with Nathan, Rennie, Bryn, Sam, and Jared, and that
Yeah,
was exactly what we'd do. It would be jump bike, seat up, and we just ride and dirt
mm,
jumps. And like there wasn't any structure, but those are some of the fittest guys. They were just bike fit, you know. And
yeah,
I think that art is a little bit lost. You know, I
yeah,
feel, like yeah, training's good and structure's good and testing and the science for sure. But like if you lose that playful side, I think that's where people get burnt out, and
yeah,
I guess that's why I enjoyed being around Brendan in England. So, dude, I can relate. We're in Big Bear just going on the maddest missions, and I was just like, "What are we doing?" And for them, it was just normal. At home, I
mm,
had a road bike, and I think I borrowed my dad's shitty XC bike, so I'd kind of already started training a bit. But when I was with those guys, I'm thinking about you. We would just go on missions, find dirt jump spots,
yeah,
or just go find some crazy hiking trail in the back of Big Bear.
yeah, yeah. Literally, I think like I'd leave school, like when I was at high school, I'd ride straight away after school. I'd go sprint home and get out of my uniform, and then just ride until it was dark, and that was every day. And then the weekends, literally all day, and Saturday, Sunday until it was dark, and then that's all I did. And we're on jump bikes, so we'd go like now I couldn't. I'd get so I don't even know. My brain would just be like, oh, I'm over the skate park or something. And I can remember we'd just go, we'd buy like a loaf of bread or something because we didn't have much money or whatever. So we'd just eat that or go to the bakery and just buy like a sandwich, and that would do you all day. And you just or buy big bottle of fizzy drink, just smash that, and go dig dirt jumps all day. And then, but you don't. I just feel like you don't like now you don't see that kids don't do that. I'm like, and I still kind of like have that in me. I like love going big missions. I just go ride all day. I do it probably more on the e-bike now and other stuff, but and I've got kids, so I can't really just leave them. But yeah, different things like for sure. But I feel like the kids are like I see them now like don't want to go pedal their downhill bike up and stuff. They're like, oh, that's way too hard. So like me and Win kind of like tease some of them sometimes, like some of the juniors, like one of the juniors that Win had like this year, last year on his team, Luke Wayman, he we're like, oh, we'll teach him like what we used to do, and we'll just take the downhill bikes and we just pedal them. And he just couldn't. He was like, nah, not doing this. He's over it. And then Win was just like, yeah, sprinting up the hills all the day. And we were just like, yeah, this is what we used to do as a kid. Like, because I remember we'd go to like nationals, and because we didn't have trail bikes back then, you just ride your downhill bike up the hill, and then you'd check out the track, and then that was what you did. And it's freaking hard, but you just did it. and I think that's just installed in us now. And then kids maybe have it a bit easier. They got like this sick trail bike, so they're like, well, why would I ride my downhill bike when I've got an easy bike to ride up the hill? Which it's probably not easy to climb up a hill on a trail bike, but like after climbing up on a downhill bike, it's easy.
Yeah,
Real
but
easy.
you've said the exact thing. Is like you doing so many hard things that like doing laps in Europe is easy, so you just do more laps. Like it's
Mm,
you get better from doing hard things in life. Like you just learn like to be just a stronger person. But I also laugh like there's this one track that's basically the same as when I was pro, and I go out there. It's like an hour from me, and I'm like, guys, this is the same track as when I used to race, and I used to do a bit of digging here, but at least I would dig like in my area, and then whoever built this was digging. You guys are so lazy. Like, why would you not
mm,
come in the winter and like dig a few more turns or fix that or make a whole nother track? You got a tarmac shuttle road that your parents drive you up. They just like spoiled, like the one thing is like the
mm,
training, but I'm like, they don't even dig their own tracks because someone's done it for them. Or I mean, New Zealand's like filled with like amazing bike parks now. So I guess they just
yeah.
don't have to do it. I'm like, there's something so cool about going in the woods, digging your own few turns and just ripping those turns. And that's why you guys, the Aussies, like that's where that skill came from. It was like that constant repetition. I remember Rennie, like he would make cuddy turns in the back of Cecil's house and ride them for hours. And
Yeah,
like, oh, I wish I could turn like Rennie. Well, I don't
yeah.
know, go make some cuddy tracks in some boring dirt road and you'd get good at
Mm,
it.
yeah. Yeah, that's literally what I had all the way to school. So I'd ride my dirt jump bike to school, and I just had, then I think everyone hated me, but my route to school was just cuddy ruts all the way. And I'd get like, so they'd come in like some days there'd be like new grass because they're trying to fix them, and I'd just be like, oh, this is awesome.
Yes.
So I just started like a new rut, and it'd just be like fresh dirt, and I just these guys would have just hated me, but because it was early in the morning, they'd never see me. And like three
Yeah.
o'clock, everyone's at work too when you're biking home, so no one would ever see me. But I just had, it was just like repetition of the same ruts all the way to school, and I'd just be sprinting doing that, and that's every day going to school for like what, our high school was like, I don't know how many
Well,
years,
you didn't
5.
finish it. Don't worry about the maths,
No,
dude. You
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
finish and I've forgotten it as well.
yeah. Don't worry about that. It was a waste of time for me anyway because I was just there staring out the window waiting to go riding after school, or sometimes just I used to leave my,
You ever
well,
bunk school to go riding?
yeah, yeah, that's what I was just about to tell you about it. I was trying not to say it because the kids shouldn't be doing it. I'd just leave my jump bike
What?
outside
Oh,
the
your
bike
kids.
locker. Yeah, yeah. I'd leave my bike outside the bike locker. So some days, because when Masters used to have like half day, so you could go riding, and I'd be like, oh sweet, I'll just do it too. And so like once a week, we'd just go riding like halfway through this, and I'd just leave because yeah, it would just be like, it was painful for me at school really because obviously I'm dyslexic, so I couldn't. It was a waste of time really. I was just, yeah, I needed to be outside, and I'm ADD as well, so I can't really hold anything like structured wise down. I'm just always all over the place. So yeah, if I was at school now, maybe I'd be a little bit better, but I still get to the point where I'm just like, no, I gotta go, got to do something hard, and then I can sit down and chill out.
Yeah, you're similar to my brother. Like he just didn't gel with school, but he's like incredibly smart at other things and like a guru
Mm,
wrench, and like he can remember the craziest stuff that I can't from like a mountain bike magazine because he's interested in it. But I
mm,
luckily like I was good at school or whatever. It like was natural. Like it wasn't a painful experience to be there or do my homework or get these tests done. But like now that I have a little one, I'm thinking a little bit ahead. And I'm like, yeah, this. How can we expect the schooling system to be good for everyone? Like that's not how the
mm,
world works. Like you can't box everyone into one system. And then if you dig deeper on where the schooling system comes from, that's like a whole nother avenue of a subject, right? So
mm.
I think like what a blessing that you were naughty and you decided to like put so much time into something you were good at because you enjoyed it, or you enjoyed it in the beginning, thus did it more, got good at it, enjoyed it even more.
Yeah, and the thing is, at school, like the school wouldn't even let me like have time off school to go to nationals. And then as soon as I took school off and then won everything, they were like, "Oh, they wanted to put me up in assembly and then have my
Yeah,
name all
yeah.
everywhere, and
You're the
then I could
golden
have time
boy.
off school. Yeah, so I was like, well, you guys didn't even want me to leave school. You wouldn't let me leave school, and then now I'm doing well. Now you're like, oh, okay, he's like doing something for Wanganui, which is good. So it's funny, like, because like obviously mountain biking, no one really knew back then. Now it's just like a kind of a mainstream sport here in New Zealand, anyway, because we've got everywhere in the world really.
Yeah,
Like we're
same.
pretty lucky now. Like all the schools here in New Zealand have pump tracks, pretty much. Like the the younger kids, and that's pretty amazing. So the kids are really lucky for sure.
No, they have. It's super growing. Like I was the same as you. I was the weird, in their eyes, BMX kid. And then the national results would come in, and then yeah, they'd bring me up in assembly. Now that same school has a high school team that my bike shop sponsors. Like there's
Mm,
40, 50 kids that do mountain biking as a sport. They got the jerseys, like they go to races. They've won like the series in the area. I'm like, wow, it has come a long way. It's super super interesting. But I mean, I just am hearing like all the repetition you did. Like, yes, you went over as a youngster, but man, you just lived on your bike and you did all these races. And I know you did like these winter series, and I had summer series that I raced. So I think it just shows someone like if you really want to get good at something, it's about repetition. It's about getting those
mm.
those reps in.
Yeah, for sure. Like we had our like a club series that I think that's why our generation is really good. Like Wynn, Eddie Masters, Brooke McDonald, George Brannigan, Harry Barrett. There was like heaps of us that would come and race our club series here in Wanganui, which is our winter series, and they'd just always be terrible, like clay, slippery, muddy. So like when we got to World Cups, like all us Kiwis, when it was muddy, we'd just love it. I guess it's like the English guys; you're used to it, and you'd see all the other people struggling, and we'd already raced like with skate park tires on our jump bikes. You couldn't even like Eddie Masters would only have one brake, a back brake, and you couldn't even slow down in these sections. We'd have to make like we made like an exit for him at the finish line of one of our club races, so he could go up the hill and like go, so he could go fast through the finish line because he couldn't slow down, otherwise he'd just crash into people. So we made like a little, we made a real gnarly shoot, but we made like a finish area so you could just like roll up the hill after,
That's
and just like
great, man.
it's just things like that. You just like after you've done all these hard things, everything's a lot easier. And then it was the same. We had we were really lucky at the time. We had an older guy that was just a janitor at a school. He just every weekend. So we were pretty much the first place in New Zealand that ran shuttles here in Wanganui. So we had a downhill place when we were younger, and then he'd run every second weekend like a downhill shuttles for us, and we'd just all hang on the back of the truck and he'd just do laps and whatever weather he'd do it and just love it. And obviously his boy used to like did downhill, but then he kind of stopped, and then he just loved helping us out, so he just kept doing it. And then he'd like organise we'd have like 3 or 4 or maybe 5 like winter series races, and then everyone would come from like around the North Island, and I guess that's why we all pushed each other at the time. And then we kind of, our generations kind of stayed that kind of like good, I guess. And that, and until like, I guess the juniors, like the last few years have only just started to come back again, because obviously Road Rural, there's like a group of kids that push each other, and then that's pushing all the other ones. So it's good to see. And then, yeah, obviously you need that. Otherwise, like you don't have it. Like you see it, like obviously US never had it for a while, and then Aaron come through. Then there wasn't anyone, and then now there's a big US scene, like all pushing each other and the racing, and I think that's just. And then obviously the French, like they're just dominant, and there's just all of those French guys in the south of France and everywhere pretty much now. They're just like pushing each other. Like you had that. I've listened to podcasts like with Fabian Brel, and then pretty much like everyone in the street were world champions. Like Nico was just down the road, Williams, and then there was other guys just all in that street, and there's just all these fast guys in the same street, just doing obviously the same stuff, riding or whatever, pushing each other. So it's like when you're all around in that group, you just naturally feed off each other. You don't probably don't know at the time, but you're just having fun. and enjoying it, and you're just doing what the other person's doing. He's pushing you, so you're going to try and keep up with him, and then you're pushing each other, and then vice versa, you know.
Just like people sprinkling their homes, it's also a great time to reset your body and routine. Whether you're heading into warmer days or still shaking off winter, feeling good starts from the inside. And for me, that starts with AG1. I've always cared about my health, whether it was during my racing days or now, juggling travel, work, riding, the little one, and everything in between. But even with the best intentions, I don't always get the nutrition I need. That's why I love AG1. It's so easy. One scoop, I mix it up in 60 seconds, and boom, I'm covering my bases with 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, probiotics, and more. No more cabinets full of random supplements. I hate that. Just one simple habit that actually sticks. With daylight savings kicking in for some, those brighter mornings are a great time to dial in your routine. Whether you're waking up to crisp spring air or full blown summer heat like I am in South Africa, AG1 helps me shake off the grogginess and get going. Plus, it actually tastes good, which makes it easy to stay consistent. This time of year, we're all getting outside more, riding, traveling, just being more active. AG1 makes it simple to support my body, whether I'm at home or on the move with the travel packs. Listen to this, it's been tested for over 500 herbicides and pesticides, made with no artificial junk, and it's NSF certified for sport, so I trust what's going into my body. Best of all, there's a 90-day money-back guarantee, so you can try it risk-free. Right now, you get a free bottle of vitamin D3K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs at a $48 value for free when you go to drinkag1.com/moving the needle or click the link in the show notes. That's drinkag1.com/moving the needle to simplify your routine and feel your best this season. Start with AG1. So pretty raw, like rough upbringing, right? Like it's New Zealand, probably bike paths aren't as accessible. It's similar to me. You got Eddie with one brake. And then you get these results, and then you get on a factory team pretty damn early on, right? Lapierre at that time, Nickers for years was connected to it, helping with the bike. Like that must have been pretty surreal.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
to
I
mention they
think
gave you a
before.
hefty paycheck, I reckon, right?
Oh yeah, at the time, yeah.
Or
Because
is that,
obviously,
sorry, is Yeti before that?
yeah, yeah,
Which one came
yeah.
first?
So yeah, Yeti. I was
Yeah, fair
so
enough.
Yeti.
Okay, we mustn't gloss over that. Fair enough. Okay. But
Yeah,
that
so
was also
Yeti.
factory back then, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Yeti was pretty much factory straight away. Like I was on Turner, which was Turner factory kind of. It wasn't like a big support. It was only just like help with some small money and like every bikes and stuff. So which was really good, and then travel and everything. So obviously that was a massive help for me coming from New Zealand because my parents couldn't like obviously afford just to send me overseas like for that amount of time. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it. And then obviously results came, did well, and then obviously I talked to Damien, and he was really keen from Yeti, and then 2 years with them, and then the first year with them, obviously winning Schladming, and then my first podium was in Andorra, which was fifth, and then a few races after that, like top tens and stuff, and then I think I finished maybe fifth in the overall that year after winning.
How
So I was
old
pretty
are you?
stoked.
Are you 19 or like what was that age?
Yeah,
Because he's
yeah, I
so
think like
young.
19. Yeah, so 17, yeah, 19. Yeah, I would have been 19 then. And then the second year with Yeti was really good too. Coming and then had a really good season, few more podiums, and then was keen to win Schladming again. But then Sam obviously beat me again, and I got second. So those are pretty cool. Like when you're like doing so well at those races, and after that, it kind of opened a lot of like contracts up. A lot of teams were keen. At the time, I didn't really like. I was keen to stay with Yeti because they were just so good to me, and the bike was amazing, and like we could just do anything we wanted to on the bike. Like they just make stuff for us all the time because everything was in house, but they just didn't offer like the money that Lapierre was offering. And at the time, I was just like a kid, didn't really know any different. My dad's just like, "Yeah, take the money, mate." So we're just like,
Take the money,
"Okay,
mate.
yeah, take the money." You bet. No,
I mean,
he's like,
money does talk, it is a career and you got to think about that side as well. And it wasn't like a terrible, unproven team. It's Lapierre at the
Yeah,
time, right?
yeah. So yeah, Dad's like, yeah, take the money, boy. And I'm like, well, it's good money. And then literally started that year really bad. Like I went to the nationals on their bike, crashed at the first national, and broke my scaphoid. But I didn't even know because New Zealand here is terrible. So they just said, oh, it's sprained because we didn't have it. I didn't get an MRI or
Oh,
anything.
so it wasn't you just being naive. It literally, you got told it wasn't broken. Because I heard you went testing, didn't tell them, and you
Yeah,
had a broken scaphoid.
nah,
But I thought you knew it was either you knew it was broken, but you just
nah,
stubbornly didn't want to
nah,
tell them.
nah. Because I was like, just I'd try and ride, and I was like, the doctor's just telling me it's sprained, but it still hurts so much. And I was like, it's got to be broken. So I was like, okay, because I didn't ride like any downhill. I was just riding at the time. All my friends we did heaps of like jet ski, pole stand up.
Oh,
So I
really?
just
Are you good at that? A stand-up jet ski?
well, I've done a few years on it. I'm not great, but we'd just go on the surf and like just go send it. And because the pole ski, it's not pushing, it's pulling. So
Yeah.
it didn't hurt. And I was like, I've done heaps of like pole ski stuff. I should be right. And then I try and ride, and it was like pretty average. So I was like, I'll just go to Europe and see for testing. And then
With your new factory
I
team.
yeah. So they all the teams there ready for testing and stuff. And then I do one run, and it's in San Remo, which is the roughest place in the world.
Yep.
And I go down
Agree.
one run. I was like, oh, nah, this is not right, hey. And then because Laurent is just onto it, he's like, okay, I know someone that could check it out, go straight away, get it MRI'd, and they're like, yeah, it's broken. And if you don't get it pinned straight away, like it's the bone is dying. So it had a little black dot in the middle. So I literally just went back to New Zealand, checked into like a private doctor, and they just pinned it straight away. And then I think within when the stitches were like healed, I started riding. So it was only a couple of weeks. I just got like a brace on it, and then best season of my life. Finished third
Imagine you
and
don't go to that team
overall.
camp and get that second opinion.
Yeah. Well, because I would have just kept trying to ride in New Zealand, struggling, and just been like, oh, and it could have died, and then it would have been like a terrible season. I would have, you know. So yeah, so I'm pretty lucky, and then came into the season really strong. Obviously, the first race was pretty average because we were still on an old bike and we didn't have the new one. And this is crazy back then. Like you could never probably do this now. So I literally turn up at the first race, hardly any training or anything. Like having the downhill bike, just race Fort William, end up sixth on like the average downhill bike that wasn't even good. And then the next weekend is Leo Gang. Don't even ride the new prototype. Only get it for the race. I think I did a couple of laps on it in the bike park. So I go and race it. First lap, snap the back end out of it because it's a carbon back end, and then we fix it, and I win qualifying. No testing or anything, just jump on it. Just Nico's there, like, oh, he should try this, blah blah blah, or whatever. And then it's like terrible conditions, so it's good for me. Flat pedals, muddy, so I just loved it. Good. I win the qualifying, and then I think I made a mistake in the race, and I ended up like fourth or fifth or something. And I was like, what? Just jumped on a bike, not even tested or anything. Just like Fox, I think, even gave me a new like rear shock that didn't even try. I just like chucked it in the bike. I think Nico had tried it, and he was like, "Yeah, you try this setting or whatever." I'm like, "Yeah, it's mean, it's sick, whatever. It's all good." But in the back of my mind, I was so scared all the time, like the back end's going to rip out because the first jump I did, it just like boom, and that could have killed me for the whole season again. But the only thing that was holding it together was the chain.
Yeah, I've
So the
heard this
chain,
story. I was actually at the race though. So
yeah,
it
it
was
was just on
just
the
when
one of
you
the
hear
doubles, and
more
I
of
landed. And it's like, fuck. I was just like, oh man. So I just come in. I'm like, hopefully this glue holds on this other frame. So we'd have like one good one, and it would last ages. And then I think at Montsanan I did it again, like just coming into a section, it just went poof. And then the only thing, I don't know how I didn't die again. Like the chain just holds it. I'm like, whoa. So
And
lucky.
dude, you seem to be one of the few riders with that attitude that could make that work. Because I don't. Many other people would be like throwing their toys in the pit, like you almost killed me. Like what is the conversation when you go back to the team?
I'm just cruising down the hill, just loving it. Like I was thinking I was more pissed because I'm like, fuck, I'm just missing practice. What's this? Blah blah. I
Yeah,
want to go
and
riding.
that's not even for preparation. You just like want to ride your bike, probably. Like you are one
Yeah,
unique individual, man.
yeah. I was just more gutted because I was like missing out on practice. But back then we did have a lot more practice. We had all day, so I think
Yeah.
Jack just whipped out, chucked on the new swing arm, and good to go. So it's pretty funny. And then go and win qualifying on like the first weekend riding this new bike. It's pretty funny, eh?
But I mean, it must have been good for your confidence. Like if you're like, okay, like you must have been aware you're not quite doing the preparation even back then that you should be, with the injury and the new bike. Are you like, well, maybe when I
Mm,
get really used to this, I can win some more?
yeah, yeah. And I think like all the rest of the races, there was like only a couple I think I did real bad. Like most of the season, I was like qualified first, but then I just kind of screw up the race a little bit, and then I was like fifth or third and fourth or whatever all the time. I didn't win any races, but that was really good for my overall because of good points for. So I ended up the season like third in the overall. Like wasn't battling with like I think it was it Sam and I think it was Sam and Greg. They were like a few points ahead of me, so I couldn't really catch them at the time. And then, yeah, it was all up to like I think Schladming or something at the end or whatever. Or I'm not. It's too long ago, man. I can't
But
remember.
can you reflect back now why you didn't maybe convert some of those races? Is it those guys' racecraft? Were you complacent that you had the speed, but race pace just goes up? Like what? Looking back, what do you think it was? Like if you
Yeah,
could put yourself back there with your racecraft now, like what would you do differently?
yeah, it was definitely. That's why I changed the year after. It was flat pedals. Like so, at the time, every race that year was muddy, so it'd suit the flat pedals and qualify. And then by the time we'd race, it'd kind of dry out and get way rougher. And I'd just be like messy and like blowing feet. And I could just like, I just noticed that, like, just like I'd be messy. And like you could see on the video, I'd just be like all over the place and slide out, just trying to override things. And then, like, when your feet move on flats, you just couldn't do it. And then, so the next years, I switched to like clips, and then I kind of had a few like two average years. Just well, they did change the bike, and it was pretty average. And then it takes a while to get kind of used to clipping in after being like a flat pedal rider. So that took a little bit of time, and then yeah, after a few more years, like kind of figured it out at the end of last year and got a few more results.
I remember those conditions. I actually hated them. Like I loved it wet, but then it must just stay wet or
Mm,
start dry and stay dry. But when it was wet and we'd ride it, it was super fun and the dirt was soft and the ruts, yeah, they were big, but they had this like sort of softness to them. And then it would bake in those European summer afternoons. And I
yeah,
also battled a bit more, got more arm pump and just like it was like it was like a moto track. It just got wrecked and then baked and then yeah. So I guess with flats, it would have been harder for sure. And the pace was
yeah,
different. Like you really had to be aggressive once it was dry, even though the track was like brutal.
yeah. And it probably at the time too, I was like probably riding too much, but just didn't care. I was just like having
What
fun
like
anyway. So
fitness, you just were like burnt out by the time you need the most
and
energy. You were just like a little bit more tired than you should have been.
no, I was always real fit, so I could just ride all day. Because like I was pretty, I think I was pretty lucky. Like being my teammates from even earlier on have always been machines. So I had like Philip Polk when I was on Gravity Group. The first 2 years was just like a, a bloody racehorse. So he would just do gnarly training. Like I never trained at all, and then once I hanged out with him, like I'd go live with him in Slovakia, and we'd go on the high. He just loved doing gnarly stuff. So we'd go on the highway, which is like, and we'd bike to the big city from where he lived, and it was like I think it was like 20 20k or something. So we'd bike to that city, and we'd have to motor pace on big trucks and stuff. So we'd sit behind big trucks, trying to go like 100 or something behind these trucks, and his highways there they got these ruts in them. So you'd like and we didn't even have like, I think we had just like, I didn't even have, I think it was just my full cross bike. We were just training on that and just trying to keep up. And I just try and motor pace with him and and we'd have these gnarly, like, just training he'd get me to do. And that's why I think I did so well when I was younger too, because I was just always so fit and we just rode so much. And then same when I rode for Yeti, I had Justin Leoff, and then he kind of
he was
started
my teammate as well. Fuck, there was no hiding from that training we did, man. Fuck.
Yeah, he kind of got me sorted with like actual training. I just remember
Structure.
like everything. So like that first year when I had hit with him, I just remembered the 4 minute interval, man. He was just loved it. And it's all about them and sprints, and it was kind of good because it was like his competition, and then it was competition for me because I'd just always try and beat him, and he'd hate it when I beat him because I had flat pedals
on the intervals or the races.
On the intervals too, because we'd just go. So we'd do like, he'd do 4 minutes, and then I'd jump on the trainer, and we'd just try and like just see who's most dead and go hard as you could. And I had flats on, and he'd just be like, I think at the time he was still running flats, so we'd just both flats on the trainer. And then all we'd do sprints and race each other sprints, same thing. So it was like real good for us. So it's like, yes, you need that, obviously, that someone to train with at the time, because it's like when you're younger, it's easy just to be like, oh, I'll just go dirt jumping or do what the other person's doing, like your teammate. So you follow your teammate sort of thing. So I was really lucky I had those guys to like push me in that direction. Otherwise, it could have been opposite. They could have been guys that like drinking and just hanging out, or just a bit more lazy. And I think that's what,
like my
really,
mentors, like my Aussie mentors.
Yeah, you probably, but they were good ones. But they were just, they had the other bad side.
Dude, so I'll never forget. Bad. Yeah, Justin's story. I mean, I got many, right? And did he ever wake you up at night, like sleepwalking and talking and shit?
Oh,
yeah, so he was bad like
so
that.
So many times.
And then I'll never forget, we had a Pro GRT, which was like the American Nationals at the time, the week before US Open. And I hadn't done, okay, so that was before I did well at the US Open or whatever. But so then he's like, okay, so we're doing testing or whatever, and then we're going to ride home on the training bikes, and we're going to do these 4-minute intervals or whatever. I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you talking about? The race is on Sunday. This is like Friday. He's like, no, dude, this is prep for US Open. So I'm like a young, gullible kid, and I'm like, okay, but if he's doing it, I have to do it. Otherwise, I'm lazy. So I cook myself doing this, and then luckily somehow like recover for the race, do quite well. And I have to thank him because I did really well at the US Open, I think, that next week. But yeah, man, I definitely wouldn't have done that sort of level of training, at a race. But we just for him, he was just writing off that race. It was just a training week. So he trained super hard through this week. And I was like, okay, well, if he's doing it, then I'll do it.
Yeah. But at the time, you're like, it's good. It's better for you because, you're like, oh, he's done it, so I'm doing it. And then you're like, oh, I've done some like hard training, so then the race is easier, That's what I always thought. Like, I've done all this hard stuff, and then in the weekends, that was the fun part. Like, racing was easy. You got to ride your bike and have fun.
Dude, you've always been super fit and like a workhorse.
Yeah. I think I just enjoy it. I guess it was bred into. Well, it was just, and Win Masters, like, he's just like a horse, So it's like growing up with him, we'd just do the hardest stuff all day, and then like training was kind of easy, because you'd only have a small period of hardness, and then you get to rest. Like with Win, we'd just go all day on our downhill bikes, hard as, and you'd just be hanging, or in your jump bike, and you'd just be like, all day hard, and then just go home and sleep and have dinner, and then next day same thing. So I was like, I guess it was kind of bred into us, and I guess yes, Win's probably lucky he had me to like, we pushed each other together, the same sort of thing. Eddie was more the lazy kid. He
Was
was
he
never care.
back then?
Yeah, real. He was like, but now he's the opposite. He's like the full enduro machine. But then him when he was like a younger kid, he'd just go to the skate park and then give people his jump bike and then just ride the skateboard, and would just hate on him, mate. We'd be like, bro, why don't you just ride your jump bike? You always just ride a skateboard. It's so dumb. And then he'd just hang out at the skate park and then just go back to school and not like ride much with us. So it's so funny how it like turns around.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
he's like the
So
faster
this
kid for sure.
yeah, no, now you can see, dude, he's a workhorse as well. Like he leaves
Mm.
nothing to spare there. Dude, it's so fascinating, right? We've had Josh Bryson, we've had Stevie Smith, and we've had you switch to clips. Like it's quite interesting. Like it was your decision. Like looking back now, did you ever put flats back on some tracks? Like I think you pretty much committed pretty hard when you went to clips. Like what was that transition like? Do you think those next year or two was a challenge because, you're not going to be as comfortable on clips all the time?
Yeah, I think I was pretty stoked, like good, like because it was just like that was the only thing that would make mistakes for me, my feet. And then once, I think the only thing I struggled with was just the bike. Those few years, it wasn't.
Okay.
They changed it, and then until like Cam Cole at the time when he came on the team, they were just like we struggled so much on it. And then once we started testing and everything and realizing it was like just wasn't working out, we couldn't get any more. And then I think that was really good for them to like. I think that's why the team now is so good. Like obviously specialized. Seeing those years with us like struggle from when it was like kind of easy with a random bike that they just made and it kind of worked out doing well, and then a few years of struggle, and we're saying, oh, we need to test and we need to get stuff ready, and then when we tested, we did well and made this better bike and stuff, and then they're like, okay, and then obviously it makes them be so good, and then I think Laurent was just like he was just such a good manager for that, he just wanted the best for the riders, so we're really lucky at the time. And then yeah, obviously when Loic came on the team, it was the same sort of thing. It was just like this crazy French kid that was just like a funny, like it was funny because the year before he was junior, he was like a big fan of me. Like he came and got my jersey and stuff, and he was too scared to ask for my jersey, so he met me. But then I think he had to leave after the race, and then his friends came and asked, "Oh, can you sign a jersey for Loic?" And then and then because I didn't even realize that he was going to be on the team the next year, and then I found out like that next year that he was on the team, and I gave him a jersey and stuff, and it was like pretty funny. And then like straight away, it was just like the first race, he just like struggled a little bit and just crashed his brains out. And then after that, he just figured it out real quick, and then he was just like a machine. And then ever since then, he's just been a machine. And then I was just learning off him, and then he kind of grew out, and then I was the slow guy on the team, so I got kicked out, and then all these young French guys want come through and take me away. So no, but it was good. It was definitely some fun years with those boys, Loic and Larice. So they were just like some talent that was just amazing to hang around and have as teammates and obviously good mates.
Yeah, but you clearly pushed them, right? Like it seems like you guys pushed each other a lot. You all were getting good results at the time. So did you guys and your testing, that is something Loic learned through the team? Or did he
Mm.
just come in with a little bit of that French history of professionalism? Or, what do you think it was?
No, it was just basically us and Jack, our mechanic at the time, Jack Rowe.
Yeah,
So
because
he
he was
was,
already there at the team.
yeah, so he was me and Loic's mechanic. And then, so we basically had telemetry before there was telemetry. Jack was making a bike for us. And then, yeah, so we had telemetry. And then it was kind of good because we'd have the same stuff. So me and Loic would like relay over stuff. And then Jack would be like, oh, Loic's rolling better here. You're skidding more here in this corner. He's got more corner speed here. The wheel speeds are better here, whatever. So it was kind of good for us. Like And then it was crazy that season. Like, I think every race would be one position in front of each other or behind.
No
Like, I
shit.
think there was only one or two races, maybe it was like a little bit different with bigger mistakes. And then it was like we were just like riding together. It was crazy. And then we finished, I think he finished fourth in the overall or third, and I think I finished fifth in the overall, which is just funny, eh? And
Did you
then
guys
like,
practice together a lot?
nah, nah, nah. We
Not at
did
all.
at the start.
Really?
We rode together a little bit, and then it kind of got like a bit of a competition.
Is it?
Like it was like that brotherly competition. Like I don't want this. For me, it was like I don't want this little shit to beat me. And he was like, "Oh, I got to beat the number one," because I was like the number one rider on the team. He's got to beat me, and then he started beating me, and it was like, ah. And it kind of like got in our friendship a little bit. I think it happens with every team
Yeah,
because
it
I was
does.
just like I think that's what happens with everyone. Like you've seen it. Like obviously, Loic and Larice was the same thing. Like it comes in between them, and I think that's why Larice left Lapierre as well, just because it kind of ruins your friendship. Like you're still racing each other at the end of the day, but you're on the same team, so it kind of you're hanging out with each other all the time, and then it can, yeah, obviously it ruins your relationship because you're like the team wants you to be the best rider, but then the other guy is better than you, so it's like but you're mates, but then you're like, oh god, I don't want to be his mate
You
because
don't want
he's
to share
freaking beating me.
information, right?
Yeah, yeah, and then you're
It's
not being
just
a mate.
natural, right?
Yeah, you're not being a teammate or a mate, so it's like it's real hard. But I think there's obviously teams that do get on maybe
I think
like that.
Justin Leo was one of the best guys like that. He taught me like,
Yeah,
we can share and we can both do well. Like he was really selfless like that.
yeah. I think he's just like that personality that can do that. Because
Yeah.
I remember it was the same sort of thing. It was like that brotherly. Because he'd beat me sometimes, and I'd be like, oh, I want to beat the older brother, Justin, and then I'd beat him like pretty much every race most of the time after that, and he'd just be like, oh, I've kind of made this kid now, so he's smoking me, and then he's just like, oh, it's the way it is. So yeah, it's cool,
Yeah.
but at the end, I was like, I was stoked for Louis because he's just such a like good person. It'd be different if he was like a pain in the ass and a bad like you didn't really get on. I know like heaps of teams that they don't really get on like that because it's just like the same sort of thing. Like they don't really get on, or it's weird, Makes things awkward for sure. Like imagine traveling around the world with a person you don't like and you go to spend all this time with, and then you're like, and it makes the pits kind of weird too. So yeah, but we just at the races we're just like kind of hate each other after the weekend when we beat each other, but then we'll just be mates again and have drinks and we'll just be like, yeah. But then in the back of our minds, we're like, for sure.
Yeah.
But
But he
that's the
speaks
way it is.
highly of you in the interviews and stuff, right? Like I think you helped him have fun in between, because he comes from that sort of community that is like goal driven, wants to win world champs, like performance, performance, performance. But he
Mm.
has made it pretty public. Like I think you helped him, your attitude, your carefree New Zealand, happy go lucky attitude. I think he took a lot of that as well.
Yeah, I think that was his choice, like, because the year before he had the choice to sign with Fabian Burrell or with Lapierre with me. So, and he was just like, he didn't want that French route of like being so French. He just wanted to have more fun and then see if that worked out for him. And I guess it did. But I think that was just his personality too. Like he would have still been the same sort of guy, but it would have just been maybe a little bit more French and a bit maybe awkward. But I think it was good what he did because it's like has made the person he did, and he's so good. Like he's obviously a way better person than me, but his like he's just like such a good. His family's like that. It's all the people that are around him too. So yeah, it would have been maybe the same anywhere else, but it might have been just a little bit like on the media side. People might have hated on him more because he would have been like, that French person, which is always kind of weird. But all the French guys now are awesome, mate. They don't really have that vibe about them.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool.
I mean, I understand Fabian more than anything. Like he just was performance based, and if the rules were written a certain way, it's like, well, why would I not use them to my advantage? And like he kind of fed into the rivalry, and I was
yeah,
like, yeah, it was just his like his positive attitude. Like he's such a headstrong guy. So I actually have a lot more respect after. I always had crazy amount of respect, but like now I understand him even more. I'm like, it wasn't the rivalry we actually made it to be. You know, it was just like his strategy to racing rubbed up the English and the Aussies the wrong way. You know, because they were so carefree and they were so chilled. You know,
yeah. But
it's
then I
funny
think
that
that's why I think people like that. Well, it's pretty crazy. He's still in the industry, but like his career didn't last that long. Like because he just was so intense. It's not enjoyable. I don't think it was enjoyable for him. Like racing, I don't think he enjoyed it. Like it was just like all about winning, or that's it, and then all about being the best, having the best stuff, testing or whatever.
yeah,
He didn't
it's
enjoy. He didn't
intense.
enjoy it. Like all I ever did was just like I don't really. Yeah, if it's good, it's good. I ride my bike and it feels good. I'm happy. It's fun. So yeah, just enjoy it. But I think that's probably why I'm still like racing and enjoying riding and whatever. But yeah, I don't think I could. Maybe it would have helped my maybe career, but I don't like because it's funny because like when I was with Nico Fully, it was like you think he would have tried to help me, but he didn't really. Maybe he just had that vibe that I didn't really want it or need it. So he just kind of stayed to the side and didn't really do much with me.
Really, I'm
Yeah,
surprised
yeah,
about that. Yeah, because he's got so much knowledge, right? That
yeah. Like I thought it would
given
have,
to you
like,
correctly could have worked.
yeah, yeah. Like maybe some of the stuff would have really helped me, but I think I was just like, at the time, I was just like, yeah, doing well, I'm happy or whatever. It's just having fun. And he was probably just like, oh, I
He's
don't
like,
want to
he's probably not
step
going to
on it.
listen anyway.
Yeah, this kid's too crazy. Nah, but I think yeah, like now looking back on it, like I think it would definitely would have helped me because I'm more like that now, like more of a sponge. I think it's cool with all these, especially the stuff you guys are doing, like the podcast. It's cool listening to everyone and like, especially like listening to Fabian and that. Like he's just like clued on with everything. There's anything you say, he'd just be like, okay, this is why, and this is this, and this is that, and then it's just amazing, eh? But I'm just the
Bro,
full
you must
opposite.
listen to the one I did with him. Like, there's stuff I've prepared for it, and there's shit that I'm like, you did what? He chose to lie on his back for 4 weeks when he broke his back. And he said every day he visualized walking like he
Yeah, yeah,
used to. So he just
mm,
like didn't accept that he wouldn't walk, and he visualized walking and he used visualization, and then he came back in the pool. Like he came back so quick. And then even world champs, he went to a world champs basically no prep from an injury, and he said he would sit on the trainer playing music of like rain and wind
yeah,
and visualize going down Fort William. And then he only did like whatever 3 to 5 runs on the prep bike that he hadn't really ridden. He just used visualization. He almost won the thing. Just think about
yeah,
that. Like
yeah,
he was doing stuff before his time, and you can only like learn from that and be like, wow.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Like he's the. I guess that's why he was doing so well most of the time because he's like the people now have gone to it. They
Yes,
are.
yeah, he was exactly.
I mean, he was
He was doing
all ahead of
visualization.
time.
Yeah, yeah, and he was testing things on the bike that we use now, like a high
Yeah,
idle wheel to have like less chain kickbacks. Like, dude, he did that in 2003. The wide
yeah,
bars, like he was the first one.
yeah,
Dude, his head angle at Worlds was 59
yeah,
degrees
yeah.
at the
I
one
remember
Worlds.
that.
They built this bike. I didn't even think it was 59. I knew it was a
It
slack,
was
but he
at
just built.
Lavinio.
Yeah, he built a one-off bike for Worlds. It's like
Yeah,
we barely do that now,
yeah, I know.
or
And we're
you guys
probably
barely do that now.
yeah, and everyone's just laughing at him like, look at this kook. What's he doing up the top of
Yeah,
the hill?
who's
We're not
laughing
taking,
now?
and he's doing all these things, and we're like, oh, maybe if it would have helped us. Everyone's doing that at the top of the hill now, like bloody closing their eyes and going through the track. It's just like the norm. And at the time, we were just like, what is this guy warming up? What are you warming up for?
Yeah, and then he would
And
smoke us. You're like, yeah,
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 yeah, maybe we
maybe it
should have
does
done that.
work.
Yeah, so it's funny, yeah, how times change and the people that are ahead of, like, if we were all doing that, then we would have probably smoked him, You know,
Yeah,
just we
people
were.
ahead of the time or doing different things always like get a lot of flack for it until
Mm,
it's proven or until you be more open minded. He's very open minded about that.
mm. Yeah, it's crazy. It's cool to see like, and he's still in it, and he's doing like stuff for the team with Kenyon, and that's real cool. But yeah,
And so then, so you were super happy at the team. You'd done all the testing. You're getting the bike to work. You got Loic as a teammate, Loris. But I've had a similar thing where I've had a really good year, but there wasn't space for me to stay on this factory team. There was an
mm,
ex youngster, or there was, I mean, it was Aaron Gwynn at the time. So yeah, makes perfect
mm,
sense. But him and Justin had clearly a good relationship. I had the better results out of Justin that year. And like there's no hard feelings. It just didn't work with the contract cycles. And you had a similar thing with having to move on from Lapierre, right? You probably would have been
yeah,
keen to stay.
yeah. I was really keen to stay, but then obviously we had the hard chat with Laurent, and he was like, "Yeah, the team just doesn't want to keep you anymore." And I was just like, "Ah, I felt gutted." So I had to look
Yeah.
elsewhere, and then at the time, I was like, "Oh." Went and talked to a couple of people. There's a few options around, and then my trainer at the time, Todd Shrimlick, he was like, Norco's really keen to work with us if you sign with me. And then, yeah, basically the next 5 years was with them. And it was really cool. But then it was the same sort of thing. Like, didn't really ride the bike, just signed, and then got on the bike and I was like, this thing is not good.
At
And
the
then the
time,
next,
yeah.
yeah, it was just like, I guess it was like a bike that just pedal kicked back, and then I had struggled, and then obviously at the time I made idlers and took the chain off, and when I took the chain off, the bike was amazing. And then if I had no chain, probably all the time I would have done really well. Like a couple of races, I think I got fifth at Fort William on the bike, and then after that, a few years, it was just like pretty average results. Like did some top 10 overalls and whatever, but and then we were just like, we need to change, and then they designed the high pivot idler bike. Got on that, really enjoyed that. Um, but then just didn't really have results. And then they made, I think we struggled with the 27.5 one. And once they made the 29 one, it was like it was supposed to be the same, but it was like a mistake, but it was a good mistake. They changed the leverage ratio. So it like made the bike really good. So the 29 one was really good. And then we came into the first race on the 29 bike, and I think I won, or I got second in qualifying behind Brooke, maybe. Or I think on our one time training, maybe one qualifying or Brooke one qualifying, and then I ended up like fourth in the race. So I was pretty stoked to be back on the podium after a few years of not much, and then yeah, had a pretty good season. A few races, like I think I ended in the top 10 overall in that, and then yeah, same sort of thing. Came to the end of the contract with those guys, and it was kind of weird. Like I thought I was kind of going to stay on Norco for the rest. It was like hinting that we kind of keep like a lifetime deal thing or like an ambassador role thing with him. I was really keen because the brand was really amazing, and then just kind of came to an end. Like every people were getting fired, and it was getting a bit scary at Norco, and everything was changing. So I just decided to just. And at the time, I was kind of getting the feeling I was kind of getting over like management people and like people saying these things and people using your name and then maybe not using it in the right way, or trying to get sponsors out of your name, and you and they're talking about you, and I've never really dealt with the brands and the people I've worked with for years, and I just felt like it'd be cooler for me just to deal with them and talk to them, and then just decided I'd just do my own thing with Crestline, and just started doing that, and then yeah, and then here we are now, really. So
Yeah.
yeah, just been doing my own sort of thing
Well,
for the last few years.
yeah, and I'll definitely put a pause on that. I mean, that I want to dig into because it's. I mean, I'm doing my own thing as an ambassador now, and it's just totally different, right? Pros and cons to them all. But I had some time with a bike that just factually wasn't good enough to perform at World Cups, and even Nicolas Villiers took one look at it and said, "So your results are up and down depending on the track." And I'm like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "He just took one look at the bike design, right? That's how
Mm,
smart he is." But I didn't ride the bike before I signed, and I just didn't have the opportunity. So it seems like that's maybe advice you'd give to people, is to try ride the bike first, even if it is
yeah,
your only option, right? And we don't really talk about it in our industry, but yeah, you think this day and age you shouldn't have it's not like a bad bike. It's just like not optimum to perform at a World Cup level on certain tracks, right? So looking back, I think it's fair to say like that sort of stunted your performance while you're trying to work on this bike, because as soon as you got one you liked or felt was good, you were like back on the podium. Like it's
yeah,
pretty gnarly to go through, right? Like it's pretty frustrating.
yeah. It's pretty, and it's crazy because
And
like I
I'm
feel
like,
like,
not we're not here to talk shit on a bike. We're just like giving the facts.
yeah.
Like you didn't have great results,
Well,
then suddenly you got results again a few years later.
yeah. It's not just that. It's like I think it's hard when you sign with a team. Like same with LaPierre, I signed with them. The bike was good, and then they change it, and we struggle, and then we test, and we make a good bike, and then I feel like I got the bike to where I wanted a new bike coming, and then I get kicked off the team, and then they make a really good team, and then it was the same sort of thing with Norco. Like I helped develop. Well, I didn't do much, but we're just like input and like developing a bike, and then the bike got good, and then I was testing the new bike, which was like what Greg and that are on now, like the mule, because it was all like input we wanted, like things that we wanted, and then now they've got this amazing like test bike that you can like do all this stuff and make it like how you want to ride it and everything. So it's like kind of where I was like wanting to be at the start of Norco, but I did all those struggle years, which kind of maybe might have could have been a lot different. I would have had maybe a better career, more better results or whatever. But it's just they need those bad years to develop that, and I was just that person kind of got screwed
The
around,
guinea
I guess.
pig.
And yeah, yeah. And then now they're one of the best teams now, and you'll see like Danny and those guys. They're really lucky because they've had those engineers seeing what you had to do and whatever. And just the way the sport is, you just have to be like that now. So it's good to be signing with those teams now, not back when they were struggling. So when you've
Yeah,
got
shame. It's just yeah, it's a
yeah, it's a hard thing.
cycle of the sport, right? What
Mm,
was the expectations like? Did you put a lot of expectations on yourself to win again? Like winning at such a young age. Like,
mm,
what was that like? Did you feel the pressure at any stage? Like, I mean, I'm look, half the time in this podcast, I'm saying how carefree you are and you don't think a lot about that stuff and you're having fun, but you're still racing down a hill for your career, right? So, what was that like? Like, we
yeah,
like,
yeah.
fuck, I want
Oh,
to win another one. Like,
yeah, you want to win every race. That's why we race.
yeah, yeah,
And then when it doesn't happen, you're like, oh, and then you have feelings like, oh, I could win today, and then you do well in seeding, and then you're like close to winning again. You're like, oh, I could win today, and then it doesn't happen, you know. So it's like when you win, it's easy. A lot easier. Like when I won in Schleming, it just felt I just was like nothing could go wrong. And that, I don't think it's not the winning that is amazing. It's the feeling that I had on the bike that's winning. Like I've had other times like that, and I didn't win, but I felt like I did everything I could. Like I had it this last year on on my zeroed in Valisol. Obviously, I didn't win. I was just missed out on qualifying the race, but I just felt like mean on the bike. I did my best, and I was like, well, if I qualified today, I did, and if I didn't, I missed out by like point 0.1 or nothing. You know, so close. But I was like, I'm happy. That was like a win for me. I felt mean on the bike. I didn't make it. I just felt like I was in one. It just felt awesome, and I was just like everything clicked, and I was just happy. So like sometimes it's just that's a win, you know. And then
yeah,
people like put these things on you, like oh, but you didn't win. But I was like, oh, I felt like I won, so I was happy, and for me, that was my good enough for me, you know. And then like if you win, it's like all these people are like, oh, you're the man, but are you? You know, It's only because you won the race. That's the only thing. But in the back of my mind, like if I win a race, it's cool. But then sometimes it's not a great feeling because it's like all these people are pestering you because you've done well, but then you didn't. I didn't. So I've won races like nationals and different other things, and I didn't feel good on the bike. It's like, but you've won. You won the race, so that makes it feel better. You know, it's weird. That's I've over the last few years. That's my thought on it anyway. When I'm looked back on like winning races and then not winning races, for me,
Yeah, you
it's
seem
not
like you've
about
disconnected the result from the process and stuff. Now you
yeah,
can. Maybe
yeah,
back
yeah.
then you couldn't.
Nah. Well, I did. Like when I won in Schladming, I didn't like. I wasn't really stoked when everyone was just around me. I was just like, "Fuck, this is a bit weird. Like, go away." And all these people are hounding me, like, "Oh, you're the man," blah blah. It's like, no, I just had fun on the bike. Go away. I
Yeah,
just
I'm
want
like
to
the
have a
same guy I was 2 days
yeah,
ago. Thanks.
yeah,
You didn't
yeah,
tell me
yeah.
I'm the man then.
Now all these people want to know you and want to like
Interesting,
say
yeah.
all these things. Yeah, and then when you don't, well, photographers don't care or whatever. It's pretty funny. You know,
Yeah,
but you're still the same person.
the ego takes a big hit, man, for
Mm,
sure.
yeah,
Spoke to
yeah,
Fabian a lot about that. Like it's that ego management, right? Then you start maybe thinking you're the bee's knees because everyone tells you the bee's knees, and then you have
mm,
these hard few years. Like, did you get to the point that it was obviously bike related, timing in the industry, not quite riding the way you want? Like, did you start doubting you could get good results during that like shitty phase? That must be quite tough.
yeah. Yes and no. Like it gets to the point where you're like, oh, you can't really do much about it. Just ride the wave, really, and do your best. And I was doing everything I could, do my training. I knew I'd done everything right, but just like you try and push on the bike, and you just be like so sketchy. You're just like trying to kill yourself,
I know
and
this
then
feeling.
yeah, everyone does. I know lots of people that have been in the same boat, so it's like, but it's funny because you'd like literally do one thing and you like take the chain off the bike and you're just like, oh, maybe I'll just take the chain off the bike and I'll be able to win or ride like good. But like you can't start out of the gate and take your chain off your bike. They don't. The UCI don't let you start with no chain.
Don't they?
I think it's a rule. Yeah, you literally have
Really?
to start with something on your bike. Like I'm pretty sure. Like because I was at Montsanan, I was thinking it that year. I took my chain off, practiced, and I was just like, man, I think I
You
could
did a
get
practice
it.
run with no chain.
I did most of the day. Like, I was just like, I got to the point, I was like, my freaking can't ride this thing. I'm taking the chain off. And I rode it
Sounds like
without the
me and
chain.
my mongoose back in the day.
I took my chain off, and then I remember, I remember Sam Hill coming up to me after, and he was like, shit, boy, you look like Blinky again out there. And I was like, yeah, boy, I was just freaking hanging off it. And I just felt so mint. And I was like, dude, I want to ride this thing with no chain. I felt so good. It was crazy, just the chain and derailleur off.
Yeah.
The bike worked so well, and it just was planted and not, especially that track when it's faster. You just feel like I could keep going faster. It was mad. And then you put the derailleur and chain back on, it would just be like a hard tail kicking you over the ass all the time. And I was just like,
Mate, you should have
God,
done where you put the cassette into the ghost gears. And do you
yeah,
remember that?
well,
I
yeah,
think
yeah,
Fabian did that back in the day as well. He's like, oh, and we had the ghost gears back in the day. I'm like, you did too.
mm, yeah. We should have thought about something like that as well, but yeah, we tried everything. I
Shame,
made like
man.
an
Yeah.
idler and stuff, and but then
Mate,
once
I
that's
had I had the
yeah,
same thing, man. It was insane. I would have like a good run and get 28, and then the next week I'd Canberra, I'd get 6. I'm like, what the hell is going on here?
yeah, you'd be riding
And
on an
I
easier
also,
track.
yeah,
So
and
the
then
bike works on the
well, yeah, it
yeah,
works on a pump track.
yeah, yeah,
So I had to run like a 250-pound spring, and if I took my feet off the pedals or the chain off, mine was a bit different. Like the suspension was connected to the bottom. It was a URT at the time. I mean,
mm,
that's just like the 101 of what you don't want for downhill.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
is frustrating because like people, you can't talk about it when you're with them because we're all professional. Now I can. Like
yeah,
the bike doesn't exist on the market anymore. It's just fact. Well, it was a
yeah,
shitter.
mm,
Um, and then like you don't. So then you want to go into get a contract the next year, and the current team's like, oh, you keep blaming the bike. You can't really tell the other teams like, trust me, the bike's bad. Like, can you sign me? Because you don't know the
Yeah,
results. Like, it's just a crapshoot.
yeah. They're like, oh, you've done bad because you. They don't know. They don't know the story, and you say, oh, but it was the bike. They're like, no, whatever, mate. It's obviously you, and then they'll think if you say that, then you'll say, oh, you'll probably say the same thing about our bike, so we don't want to sign you. So it's
Yeah,
just like
exactly.
it's a
You're
never ending
screwed.
thing. Yeah, so it's like wow, and I just never really I just dealt with it, and I just tried to fix it myself, and then
Same.
I talked to the engineers, and the engineers were like, yeah, we're working on it, but it's when the bike industry when you're in a brand like that, it's so big, and they can't be like, oh, we'll just change it straight away. It's like 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. There's all this
four
red
years.
tape. That yeah.
So it's like now it's like you see like like bikes coming out like what Reese is doing is amazing. Like he says he can build like a new frame and like turn around in like 6 weeks or something. Any design he wants. And it's like that's a dream, eh? And that's like you don't have that boundary of a big like team, like a big corporate brand. So I feel like it's the way the sport needs to go. But then the UCI do have like those rules in there, so I don't know how it works. Like you have to be able to sell the bike after a certain amount of time or whatever. Can't
Do
be a
you?
prototype.
That's moto for sure. I don't know how
I think
downhill works.
it's still in the downhill. Like it
Is
literally, I
it?
think you have I think you have 2 or 3 years. So I think the specialized must have to do something unless they change the prototype thing. Unless they've changed the rules now with whatever they've got. But that's
I'd
why
have to look into it. I didn't know.
that was the rule I remember used to hearing because we were on a Norco, the prototype. It had to be like within sale for the next years or whatever or some crap. But who knows? There's so many different rules. You can
I
have
can't
different
keep up with
wheels.
all. I can't keep up with all the rules. I
Yeah,
do my best. Can't interpret them all. Seem to change, especially now. Like I can't understand the points yet. I need to do a deep dive. I mean, yeah. How? What are you entering races on? The top 50 in the world, or what? Like, you're
no,
not going to
nothing.
be a factory team.
I'm not bothering with that stuff anymore.
Are you not doing World Cups in 20? What
Nah,
are we? 2025.
I might do one. I think I've got a golden K entry or something, whatever they call it, because I got
Have
like a
you?
top five. Yeah, we're top five at the whatever the feeder series or whatever that it was part of the Crankworks and summer series.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
was like fourth there, so
That's
it's
good,
like
as you should.
yeah. But I don't really want to do any, but I think I only want to do this Ludenville or something. Maybe I'll because it's on the way. I might when I come to Europe and just do it for fun because I love that. That place is pretty cool and the track was amazing last year. And I feel like I would have done well if things would have worked out. But yeah, the way it is for me, it's just not enjoyable anymore. It's just too like if you're not on a factory team, you're just kind of wasting your time and it's so freaking. You're just so it's such a rush the practice and you don't. I didn't like last year racing. I didn't enjoy it at all. I was just
Okay.
stressed out, like because the practice was so stressful. You didn't. Maybe you got one practice in. If you broke something, you definitely only got one practice in the morning. If you're trying to fix it yourself, or the mechanics are flustered or whatever, and then they'd cut the afternoon practice out. So then you've done what one practice in a day.
Yeah, that doesn't sit well with me. I don't understand why we have to put everyone under that strain. Like even the factory teams that can deal with it don't want to deal with it that way. Like that's unnecessary.
Mm,
And is that not? Yeah, that's weird, eh? Yeah, that's unfortunate. But so it's the first time you've said you haven't really enjoyed something, but I can understand why. It is stressful to have less support and then try be on an even playing field with guys that can have like 6 sets of wheels at the bottom and two mechanics
mm.
or whatever they need to optimize the training.
Yeah, and then like my whole thing is I like riding my bike, and then I was just going to these races, and I just felt like I didn't. I'd go and do a weekend of rate like, and I'd lucky if I did 5 laps with qualifying,
Yeah.
and so you did like 4 practice runs and then 2 like race runs, so it's a bit more, but and it's just like wasn't enjoyable. And then I went and did an IXS, and I just rode all day, heaps of laps, fun as, and then the race was fun as, and I enjoyed it. I was like, this is what racing's about, not freaking like stressing out. You got to be in the line for a bloody 2 hours before you go up the hill. Everyone's freaking in the line. I see now it's probably a bit better the way they're making it a lot harder, so a lot of people can't race. So hopefully it does make it less people going to the races.
I agree
Like
with that part. We had too many people on the start list. I mean,
yeah,
I can only agree with that, right?
when you've got like what 200 people trying to line up for their practice, it's just, and there's only 2 hours of practice, so everyone lines up for the 1 to 2 hours before. So your practice ends up being so long, and and if you don't have like the mechanic, like the factory guys, the mechanics are waiting in there or whatever, and they don't have to wait, but you just feel like you're sitting on your bum in the line all day, and then trying to go, and then you do one lap, and then you're bloody stressed about your run, and then you make a mistake or break something, and then boom, there goes your practice morning. So it's pretty crazy. But if I was at the pointing end where I used to be, I think the way the sport's going, it's good. I think like making it a lot elite, because I remember when I was like when it used to be 80 qualifiers and like everyone used to race. It was just like going to bloody an IXS Cup, and there was just people in your way. But now the sport is like you don't really have that. Obviously, there was a couple of guys that shouldn't have been in there the last few years, like people from I don't know some other countries that were just like shouldn't have been riding. They were just way too dangerous and just holding up people, even in the qualifying. Like my teammate, like Tyler Vernon, he didn't have enough points. So this other guy, every qualifier, he had this other guy from another country, and he just in the start he knew because he caught him every race pretty much, and he had to pass this guy halfway down the track every time. Like you shouldn't
Shit.
have that. You shouldn't have that at a World Cup.
No, 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 definitely not. I can only agree
So
with like
he's
limiting the
coming
field for that matter. Yeah.
he's coming down the track, just getting ready to scream at this dude. And literally, like one time, he missed out by like nothing just because the guy on the way had to overbrake and whatever. And then another time, he like passed him again, but then he still did well. So it's like, man, you just at a World Cup, you shouldn't even have that. You shouldn't even have that at a race. Catching someone in your seating, like you don't ever do normally.
No, no, you
So
definitely shouldn't. I've been a bit vocal, so I can't really go back on some of the stuff I've said. I fear they've done it too quickly without like everything in place, and we might lose a few guys that we shouldn't.
mm,
Or someone like you that wants to build your own team. Maybe we could have another few years out of you. But yeah, look, I understand if you're not at the pointy end and you don't want to be there, that's fine. I just think like it'd be cool, like if there was a plan that it's like within 2-3 years we're going to limit it to this. Next year we're going to limit a few, and then like we don't lose the wrong people. We don't lose like the next Andy Cole. We don't lose,
mm,
you know, next Benoit. You never know. So
yeah,
everyone like progresses at different times. So look, there's
they
obviously
did.
reasons they have to do it, and there's red tape I don't know about, and there's no space in the pits for all the teams. Like there's all these things we have to definitely solve. And if you don't risk it and you don't try change, you maybe can't grow it for the better. So yeah, look, I'm trying to be devil's advocate about it all. Like I have respect for
Mm,
everyone trying to they're doing like the best job with information they have that they think will work. And then it's
yeah,
pretty easy to go, oh well, I'm fearful of X, or we look back and we're like, well, the semis didn't work, but now they've adjusted that, you know?
yeah, yeah. Because everyone always hates change and they always complain about it.
Yeah.
This could be like, hopefully it's not the end. Like they could really, hopefully they don't stuff up the sport. But I don't hope like they shouldn't. Like, but then when after a few years they'll probably look back and they're like, oh man, it was a good thing that we did this. But it's hard for the teams that were there that maybe should have had like maybe another year of chance or something that could still be in there. I don't really know like how they're working out the 15 teams and then the other couple that can kind of squeeze in like 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 Bernard's team like pivot like how they Like, how can they
He
even
he
get?
has to get a wild card or has got a wild card. There's like I've got the Sven and I will chat about it, but while we're here, like I think teams like I'll find it for you. It's like Bernard, Atherton, quite big. Even Scott potentially is in the wild card situation after
No
that deadline of the points. Like just think about that.
way. Yeah.
Without having
It's
I don't
just.
have an opinion. I'm just saying those teams were on the outside. It seems.
Mm,
How
yeah,
interesting is
it's
that?
crazy. Yeah,
And like it
like
doesn't affect you now. You weren't going to go and do it, right?
nah, but yeah, like I was like,
Yeti, Cube, Scott, Athertons, and Bernard
yeah, yeah,
seem like wild cards. Just listen to those names.
yeah, yeah. Like the Athertons is they're set up as one of the biggest, and then Bernards is two. Bernards is one of the biggest too, and then but
At least they got the wild cards, right? They kind of knew it was never going to fit everyone in. So that's fine as well. Like, cool.
yeah,
Great.
yeah, yeah. Like yeah, it just seems, and then it's funny like how people. I feel like some teams have just brought in a lot of riders just to keep it in there, like
Well, a lot
which
of
you
people
should.
did. They threw money at the problem to get into the top 15 or top 10. They had to. They
Yeah,
full on
which
had
is
to.
it's so bad for the like this timing of the sport, like when the industry is like struggling, like no one and everyone's cutting budgets, and then how they're doing it, I've got no idea. When you have to
No,
spend
no
more money,
idea.
and then the brands are just cutting everywhere. Like the sport is massive. I'm not saying it's like it. It doesn't seem like it's struggling to me. Like the amount of people that are riding and doing this, and it's just growing every year. Obviously, everything is struggling now. Like you see, like people working or whatever. People aren't spending as much money, like building or whatever. It's hard
Yeah.
times, but you see, like people still need to go buy a tire and whatever. People still need to buy the small stuff and like mechanicking and that. And there's still like you go to riding places, and there's still hundreds and hundreds of people riding in those bike parks and whatever. So it's cool to see. Like, if you obviously need our sport, like if you're into biking, like that's what I'm going to have the rest of my life, biking for sure. Like that's why I bought this house. Like
Yeah.
I get stressed out from things, I just go in my forest and just go riding, and then I'm happy again. It's crazy. If I don't have this, I'll probably be in a hole. If I had
It
to,
is
if I
really,
had,
it is meditative, eh?
Oh yeah, if I didn't have riding for me, I don't know what I would have done. Oh, I probably would. I love everything else. I love hunting. I love fishing, but I just love everything that I do. Like, but anything outside, I'm happy.
What do you guys
I
hunt
could
for there? What are you guys shooting?
deer and pigs, but
Okay.
mostly I just hunt for deer. So red deer, fallow deer.
And then do you
Yeah,
guys eat the meat?
yeah,
Can you? Should you? Do
yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. So
Oh,
it's like
wicked.
organic,
Oh,
free
it's
range.
amazing.
So it's like the best stuff ever. It's like last year I think I shot like maybe four animals, and that was my only red meat. I bought obviously some red meat like other stuff, but that's the only red meat I'd buy. And then like we only buy like chicken and stuff, but so
Amazing.
I never buy like top up. So the freezer's was always full, but now I've been moving. I haven't done any hunting in a while. So that's other reason we bought this property too, so I can hunt from here in the backyard and stuff. There's deer around
Can you
here.
just go into the forest and you'll get wild deer?
Yeah, at the moment I've kind of screwed it up, so I've just been biking too much. I've centered all the area, so no deer will come in. So if I come back after a couple of weeks, like there might be some feeding down on the flats in the down here. I've seen sign and stuff, but yeah, in the forest, like away, not far from here, the other day I seen like 15. But yeah, it's pretty crazy. But in the North Island, it's a lot harder to go hunting on public land. It's all farmland around here, so you got to know people. In the South Island, I could go anywhere within an hour, and I'm on public dock hunting area land. So it's all hunters keep the New Zealand. So you have to understand, like deer are a pest here in New Zealand because they were brought in.
Yeah.
So they were brought in for like obviously for a game hunting food, and then I think in the 80s or 70s or whatever, and then they just went rampant, like, because there's no predators here, and then they just started destroying our native forests, and then they had to pay for all these people to keep the numbers down, hunters, and it was like a big thing back in the day. Like people that were in high paying jobs, like lawyers, I think accountants and stuff were starting to get into like the deer culling business because it was such a big thing. And I think they were selling the meat to like China and stuff, and it was like going crazy. It was like a big thing. Like all these, I've been listening to a podcast, some of the hunting podcasts. It's crazy. Like the people, because all you had to do is you'd go and shoot the animal, and you'd have to take a tail out, and you'd get paid so much for how many deer you're killing. So like all these people thought they were going to make money. They'd go into the forest, and they just were terrible hunters. It's just all these old boys that were real good. They were making good money. So all these
Yeah.
people think, oh, if I go in the forest, I'm going to make good money, and they'd go and hunt, and they get in the hunt like in the bushes, and the only way you get food, they'd drop in heli drop food and stuff, and some of the people just couldn't handle it. Like they'd get on the verge of almost dying and stuff because they just like couldn't hack it being in the bush and terrible food and stuff, and like just eat all the food, and then they'd run out, and they'd be like, you couldn't just get on the cell phone back then. It's just like like you'd have to walk out of the bush. You're in the middle of nowhere, and yeah, it was pretty crazy back then. So I guess that's what I was getting to. Is like, yeah, hunters keep the numbers down. Otherwise, they have to do like big culls, and so I feel like I don't like when I was younger. It was kind of weird. Like I was into biking, and all my friends went hunting. I was like, why are you guys doing that? Why are you killing animals? It's a bit weird. But then I went hunting like a few years ago with my mate. Shot my first animal, like cut it all up, and it was just the weirdest feeling ever. Like
Yeah.
almost
What
had,
was that first one? Because I haven't hunted before.
yeah, I was like kind of nervous, like heart rate was out the roof, like more than I would racing. Shot that, I was like, fuck, do I shoot it? Am I going to kill it? I was like freaking out. Shot it, boom, clean kill. Went over to the animal and like felt real weird, and then like started butchering up the animal, and I was like almost in tears. Like a weird feeling came over me, and I was like halfway through it, I was like, fuck, this is amazing, eh? Like you wouldn't think like cutting into an animal, making a mess, all the blood and everything. I was just like after, and then carrying the animal out like back to the car, like 60 kilo pack, like because we shot like 3 other deer, like so it was just me and this other guy. And we pretty much took all the meat. He just taught me how to do everything. He's
On
like,
the
don't
on
worry.
site, you just do all the meat there, and then you carry
Yeah,
only what
well,
you
because
can use.
we're in the bush. We're like 3 4 hour hike from our car. So we're like, he's like, yeah, we'll just take as much as we can, as much as you can carry. And I just literally just took everything, and the pack was so heavy. Carried out for like 5 hours in this riverbed, going through all this scrub. Like most people would just be like, nah, stuff this. I'm like, just leave the meat here. I'm gonna kill myself, like trying to walk through this slippery river. And I'd try and stop. I'd stop and try and get my pack off. I couldn't do it. So I'd have to like lean up on a wall and just have a rest for a bit. I tried one time. I took my bag off, but I
Couldn't
lucky
get
I was
back
put
on.
it up high. Yeah, and it's so heavy to get back on. You have to get your mate to try and help you lift it on. And you take your pack. When you take your pack off, you feel like you're flying. You're just like you could just like run through the bush, everything.
It's amazing.
I got back to the car and I was just like, boom, take the bag off, have blisters on my back, and I'm just like, oh, this was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I'm going to do this the rest of my life. And I got back, like, we had all this meat. The guy made jerky, sausages. We just had meat, like, for months and just so good meat. And I was just like, I'm doing this the rest of my life. And the main thing is for me, it's like, it's weird because, like, I've biked all my life. So you're going really fast, you don't see anything. You stop at the top of the trail, maybe have a quick look around, but then it's all about just looking at the trail, and you don't see. If you look anywhere else, you're crashing where you're going. So you're always looking where you're going. So for me, it was for hunting. Like I just go walk in the hills, and you just sit there for hours and just look everywhere, and you just spend time looking around these places. And I just really got into like the last few years, just like when I wasn't training or anything, just go in the hills and just chill out and just like look at different places or go into different places, go into huts and stuff and check out different areas. And for me, it was just like I got to see way more of New Zealand that way. Like you still do with biking and stuff, but it's different. You just go
Yeah.
and it's all about I'm still kind of the same as I always was. I just like going as fast as I can down the trails. I don't really. That's why I don't really like riding with people much because they just kind of like fluff about. I'm like, nah, I'm here to ride my bike and I just want to go do that and just go as fast as I can. Like I just don't like hanging about. So that's why I like hunting. That's my hanging about sort of thing. But then I guess my mates that hunt with me, they're like, well, they don't hunt with me anymore because I don't hang about when I'm hiking. I don't
You
wait
just
for
pin
them
it.
or anything. Yeah, I've got all this meat on my pack. I'm going to the bottom as fast as I can so I can chill out at the bottom of the hill. And normally I
Yeah.
get back to the car and they turn up like 2 hours later and like, oh, thanks for the help, bro. I'm like, oh, sorry, man, I was just on a mission, which is pretty bad. It's pretty bad, so that's why I kind of hunt by myself most of the time now. So
Yeah, I mean,
it's
it's
which
good
is not good, but
meditative experience for you, right? And because South Africa's got a big hunting culture with, with our game,
mm,
and I haven't done it yet, and I know it would be very difficult, but I sort of say to myself, but you're very quick to go to a grocery store and buy meat. Someone had
mm,
to kill the animal, like you're eating
mm,
a dead animal that someone did, and yeah, there's lots of places that have pests, or we have enough that we can eat proper meat. So I'm all for it. I just need grow the balls and go to that first experience, which will probably be super emotional
yeah,
and tough. I might like it, I might not. But yeah, I think if you can
yeah,
eat well sourced meat that's organic, I mean, there's nothing better. And then you're killing it yourself. So at least you're like controlling the outcome. You're not overbuying some processed shit in the grocery store that some animals had a terrible life.
yeah. And you don't know where it's come from. You don't know
What antibiotics
what's
it's been
happened.
pumped
Yeah,
full of.
yeah. And it's like, yeah. I guess in New Zealand we have really good meat anyway, but like most of our good stuff goes to America anyway, so we don't really get to enjoy it, which is
So do you
weird.
need a license to
Yeah,
hunt?
you need a gun license. So literally,
But
yeah,
otherwise, you can just cruise into the woods if you have a gun license and go
yeah,
go mad.
yeah. If it's a public hunting area, which
Okay.
they, yeah, and then you can't just go shoot on. There's heaps of rules around it. Like you can't just go shoot on
Yeah,
like
I hope
public,
so. Because it seems like it could be a
private land.
safety issue if there's a bunch of people just floating about shooting deer.
Yeah, well, that's why in New Zealand, like when the roar is on, so the rut, so next month, like March, at kind of end of March, it starts. So the stags start roaring. That's when it's real dangerous in the New Zealand bush because everyone gets like they call it like stag fever. So it's all the stags are roaring around, and then you don't know if that's someone else like making like a stag noise. You're roaring them in, and quite a lot of people get shot walking through the
Shit.
bush, especially thick bush. So it's like quite dangerous that time of year.
So you
That's I
avoid
just
that.
well, I just don't go on the weekends. It's quite dangerous. Like everyone, like or some most people just spend that whole month just hunting in the bush too, because it's just like they love it. It's all their whole life.
Phew.
Yeah, because they get a good head and stuff. It's but when you're in the bush like on the raw, it's pretty insane. Like you think these freaking beasts are just like they sound like monsters. They're just like whoa. It's like pretty crazy like
But
feeling. You're
what's
just
the
like
roaring? What
fuck.
is? What am I? Is it mating season? What is it?
Yeah.
Why is it
No,
called
it's
that? What's happening?
the roar. So the stags are roaring up for like so the biggest ones are roaring their area to scare away other stags to fight. So I just like the first time I ever like had it. This is because I waited like 2 years to get my gun license. So in that time, I was just real keen to go hunting. So I just did bow hunting. So I got good at on the compact bow. So I just trained with that and then tried to just learn everything. I just go hunt. I just try and shoot a deer with my bow, but it was real hard. It's so hard. So I just
Have you
figured
done
out
it?
like, nah, I only shot goats and stuff, but it's so hard. Like I really want to get into it now because I have the property here, so I can train more, like get real good at it. But that's real hunting. Like you get within, you have to be like 50 meters. You have to be like right wind. It's like a sport. Like hunting with a
Yeah,
rifle is kind of it's really easy.
the easier one
It's
for sure.
cheating. It's cheating, but it's the safer way to kill an animal and stuff. But yeah, like so you roaring at the so the rut is like the stags are all like rutting up the trees, rutting up their rutting pads, scenting up their areas, and then they're roaring in other stags to fight. for his females. So they're trying to get their females. So I've seen some stags that are just insane, and they've got like 10 hinds with them females, and they're the big stags that you want to get. And then so you're roaring over this other hill, and he's like, "Fuck, there's this other stag's trying to come to fight my female." So he comes over, and so it makes it a lot easier hunting for these stags because you can just roar them up, and you can get real close. Like
Okay.
sometimes the encounter's like 10 meters, even 5 meters. It's because they just come right if the wind's right. They don't scent you, so they'll just literally come right to you because you're just roaring them up. It's pretty cool, like feeling, and that they're just like you hear one roar over there in the valley over there, and they'll all start roaring. It's pretty cool. You have to like go and like if you're a walker and you never heard that, you'd be like, "What is this? There's freaking monsters! There's monsters in the bush because
Monsters in the woods.
it's so deep and loud." Obviously, different places they're different calls. Like in America, they have the different ones. We have reds and fallow. They're all different. They kind of sound a bit different, but yeah, it's pretty cool. Like I've definitely gone into it the last few years for sure. It's my getaway from biking, and
I can hear so.
I think it's going to be like my sport when I finish riding, but I'll still ride. And I'm real into spearfishing as well. That's probably my other thing I'm real into. It's just the same thing because it's providing fish.
Really?
Yeah, and I
That's
just
cool.
love being in the water because it's like you think the forest is cool, you go in the sea, it's just like
Oh, it's amazing, eh?
it's insane. Like it takes a minute for people. Like some days I'm just freaking out. I just think sharks are going to get me, and whatever's trying to kill me, I'm freaking out and I'm real scary. But then the days I'm relaxed, like all the fish just come around you. It's weird. They scent you. They sense you. Like
Really?
if you're like, yeah, it's weird. Like if you get in the water and you say, "Oh, all I want to do is kill something or hunt something," sometimes you never see anything. In the days like when you don't care and you like get relaxed, like some the fish just come around you. It's weird. Like when you don't have a
It
care.
sounds like performing on a downhill bike. If you don't care,
Yeah,
you often perform better.
yeah, yeah. And then you breathe better, you're relaxed and whatever.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling for sure. And then the same thing, you're just providing fish for your family at the end of
That's
the day.
awesome. What a cool hobby, yeah.
Mm. And we're pretty lucky. It's just New Zealand, we're pretty lucky here. This obviously the sea is not destroyed yet, and obviously our forests aren't destroyed by everything. So I hear like
Yeah.
in America, like there's a problem with the deer and stuff they catch and they have like ticks or whatever, and that's you can get like real sick from eating them and whatever.
Really?
So it's like yeah, it's like so it sounds like it's just getting worse in those countries. So you're killing an animal and you think you're gonna eat it, but then you come down with this sickness that will kill you in a few years. So it's like, man, is it even worth it? So I think we're pretty thankful and lucky here in New Zealand for sure.
No, you are. No, I think it's super healthy to have those sort of things away from riding to keep the passion, to keep the fun. But so you mentioned you weren't having fun at World Cup, so maybe yeah, talk about building your own team, just doing your own thing. Like, okay, so are you going overseas? You're gonna do some IXS, you're doing crankworks, you're just gonna say local. Like, what does Sam Blenky's sort of career look like now? I mean, maybe this is something I haven't even heard really. I thought you may still do a few
Yeah,
World Cups.
no, just basically I'm doing a full crankwork series this year just because I enjoy that side of it. It's just like a whole week of just like intense racing, like slalom, pump track, and downhill and EDHs and stuff. I just really enjoy that whole week of just like you don't really have a minute. You're just like, oh, practice downhill, and then you go and practice slalom, and then you got all these things, and you just get to the end of the week, and you're like, oh, maybe one event you did crap at, or the other one you did two bad events, and then you've done one at one, so you feel like it's got all these things to back up on, so it's quite cool. And then just going to do some filming projects with my sponsors and stuff. Get them to use me as much as they can. Like I feel like most brands they sponsor and they don't really use you. Like they're paying for me, so use me as much as you can, and get the most out of me. So I'm just trying to do some stuff with that, and then I'm real keen to do some. I had like a thought last year, like when I was in Les Deux Alpes. I just because us as downhillers, you go to a bike park and you never actually go and ride all the trails. You just go there and you ride the downhill track, and then that's all you really do, because you just want to lap it out and test and try on that, and you don't really get to enjoy the whole park. And then last year I rode like with Adrian Laron, and he showed me the whole park, and I was just like, I had the sickest day of just riding every track. And I just kind of had the thought it'd be cool just to go around some of the bike parks in Europe and just kind of go and do that and just ride it, and then try and make it like a film project out of that. Just like go ride with the local guy there, or just get him to show around and just film it somehow and make it kind of thing. So I'm trying to figure out how I can do that. Just help
Yeah.
promote the bike park in a way, and then
Yeah,
so
I've
like
done
kind
some
of
of
like
those
it,
things and might do a few more. It's cool, dude.
yeah, and
It's
just
cool.
work with the like the the bike park or whatever, and try and help promote it or whatever, and just most of them I'll probably do is with the brands that already sponsor that I ride for. So brands sponsor like this bike park, IXS or ESA Suntour or something. So and they don't really get much
Yeah.
out of it. They if they get a rider there and like showcasing it, then it can help the bike park or whatever, and people can watch it. And I think like YouTube is kind of a growing thing. Kids like watching someone just go ride and just see what the bike park's like, and then they're like, oh, I'll just watch this bike park and maybe get an idea if I want to go ride it. And they can see like maybe just some GoPro footage or us riding the different trails and get an idea of it. It's just trying to figure out how that's going to try and work, and just a little bit more of that stuff, and then try and work on that for the future.
Well, I guess it's the first year you're doing that, right? Because you've had just a race schedule and
Yeah,
fulfilling obligations to sponsors when you built your own team. Now,
yeah.
so this is the third year, right, on your own?
Well, last year I was rode for zero
Yeah.
because
But the
I
year
wanted.
before, you also did your own team, or like, yeah,
Yeah, I did my with Chris
privateering.
Lyon and stuff, and then
Yeah.
like privateer my own thing and did it real hard, just mechanically everything by myself, just to get the cost down. But then last year I rode with the team sort of thing, but then it was like my sponsors and stuff, so it was kind of my own thing. But the team was helping out just at the trip, like at the races, so it was cool to have them. And then same thing with Zero, just and then more of like an ambassador role with Gates, so the belt, and then just I got some film projects I have to do with them, so obligation stuff with them. Go to Sea Otter and just hang out with those guys. I just see that brand growing in the sport massively, for
Yes.
sure. Like
Yeah,
the
for
way
sure, right?
what they're doing, like hands down, is amazing. Like, the e-bike stuff is just game changer. And obviously on the downhill bike, just the amount of bikes that we see here now in New Zealand, like the zero downhill bikes, they're just how they ride and the amount of people on them too, and just seeing that kind of area growing. Once there's more bike brands bringing out that they can have the gearbox, or maybe the more competition they have with the gearbox. I see Fox maybe is making one. So once there's more like brands bringing in that gearbox, then it gives more options to push that side of the gearbox, and then more people run the belt and stuff. I just see it being like a mainstream thing in a couple of years for sure. And once people figure out that how much better it is for downhill and everything, then it's going to be a game changer for bikes. I just don't. It's just those those big bike brands that kind of have to stick with those derailleurs and chains that kind of holding them back.
Do you think this is a year that we could see that competition one? Like, you think a gearbox bike, belt driven, can win a World Cup?
Oh, for sure. Well, if Rachel Atherton turns up to the first World Cup and
True. True.
turns up there,
Yeah.
but then I'm not like Reese could do it, and then Charlie's on that as well. So you you never know. The way the tracks are now and like how the bike works, it's just yeah. Like for tracks like Val Sol and the more gnarlier tracks, insane.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, I haven't ridden one, haven't paid that much attention, but if I was to guess, that's where you'd want it, right? Point me straight down the hill, rough as all hell. It's surely going to, that's where it would perform better.
It's just like I said, like we were talking about before, like if you take your chain and your trailer off, then you've got that idea of the belt feeling. There is it quiet, and then just that unsprung mass, just dampened bike just feels amazing. You know, you've
Yeah.
got that quietness of just the bike actually working. You don't have that the chain and the derailleur affecting that small bump feeling. Just like we've all had it. Like you take the chain off your bike and you derailleur, you're just like the bike feels so smooth. But
Yeah.
that's your belt right there.
No,
There
fair
you go.
enough. Fair enough.
That's the
Well,
first time I rode the bike, I was just like that was my feeling. I was just like, what is this? I feel like I couldn't like nothing was holding me back. It was just like just cool. So I was like loving it.
what about carrying speed and like making speed, like pumping and stuff like that? You're gonna have a compromise, right?
Well, it depends how the bike's designed. Like if you
Okay.
got a high pivot one, yes, a little bit. But then I have it on the trail bike, and then it's just like amazing, like hold
So you could
speed.
almost design, yeah, you could almost design away from the high pivot because
Yeah,
you've got the belt.
yeah. You just got to give it enough room to flex and grow, I think. So you need to
Yes.
have an idler so it can tension out and whatever. But
Yeah.
like it's amazing, yeah. And I think you see it with more brands coming out for sure and trying it, and yeah, just being able to whip it in. The prototyping and stuff is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an interesting time, like you say. I think other brands are gonna be forced to look at it, test it, see if that's somewhere they want to go, especially if they can prototype bikes for a while. Or we need to look into that rule if they're forced to make a production bike, like the moto guys like make a limited run, like they make a factory bike, then they're just forced to sell like 300 of them or whatever the number is,
Mm,
you know. So they don't know, they can have production normal bike, production belt, just limited run. Like I wonder what that rule is. But Blinky, this has been amazing. I want to be respectful of your time. I look forward to seeing you on the circuit doing other things and growing into an ambassador role. I think you'll do great. You've got all this experience like to hand over to the races and these brands. So I'm excited for you.
yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's cool to be on the show. I've obviously been listening to Moving the Needle for a while now. I've been stoked listening to some of your stuff. You're probably I feel like one of the best ones for me to listen to, the interviewing. Like you're just like a good source of knowledge. That's cool, man. Thanks for having me on.
I appreciate that. No,
Yeah,
thanks to you. I've learned a lot, man. And to the listeners out there, if you've gained some value out of it, make sure you follow Sam's journey if you haven't been. I think it's going to be really good, cool to see where you are in the future. And yeah, it'll be a big favor to me if you definitely subscribe and share this channel because then we can get more awesome guys like Blinky. So till the next one, or when I'm in New Zealand again, I'm gonna have to go hunting with the boys. So thanks again.
mm, sweet man. Thanks.